Does your knitting ever look messy and you're not quite sure what's going on with it? That happened to me last summer, and I discovered I was doing something called rowing out. In today's video, I want to talk to you about how to tell if you are rowing out, what causes rowing out, and then 4 ways that you can fix rowing out, or better yet, prevent yourself from doing it. My name's Amanda. I am an average knitter. I am looking to build community on this channel as well as show you some finished and unfinished projects and tips and tricks that I've learned that have helped me improve my knitting. So let's get on to the video. I'm going to show you that swatch up close and talk a little bit more about rowing out. Rowing out is a tension problem, and the tension problem usually happens in the purl rows when we're knitting back and forth to create stockinette stitch. Here's a little gauge swatch in some worsted weight acrylic yarn. And you can see where in the center of the border is my stockinette stitch. Stockinette stitch makes rows and columns of little V's. You can see at the bottom here, most of the columns are pretty straight and most of the rows are pretty straight with a well-defined V shape of each stitch. So here my tension is pretty good and even and consistent. When we get up to here, you can see how it loses some of its consistency. Some of the V's aren't well defined. There's some little holes, some sloppiness, there's some wonkiness in these columns. And if we look at it a little bit closer, you might be able to see some bulging in the rows here, like a little mountain ridge, and then there's a little valley. And you can see how it kind of bulges forward there. If I turn it over, you can see how nice and consistent this reverse stockinette is on the right side. And then we look at the left side, you can see some of what we call rowing out. So if I stretch it out, you see on the right side there's consistency between the rows, and if you look at the left side, there's not consistency of the rows. So you can see how it creates an aesthetic problem. The other problem it creates is a gauge problem, and basically what gauge is how many stitches you have per inch or per 4 inches of your project, and that determines the size of your garment. I will be doing another tutorial a little bit on basic gauge, and you can watch for me to link that video when it's done. But anyway, let's talk about how rowing out can affect your gauge. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to take a little handy dandy ruler that I have, and we're going to just measure 1 inch so you can see how this could change things. I have a little quilting sticker on my ruler so it's easier for me and you to see. Just going to line it up with, let's see, I'm going to pick this column here. I'm going to get my ruler on the edge of that, and we're going to count the V's. So we're going to start with this column here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe a little bit of a quarter. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 for sure stitches, and maybe just a hair more. So if we come up here and we measure the gauge where we had some rowing out, I'm going to line it up here. We have 1, 2, 3, and a half a stitch. What happens when you row out is that your stitches become bigger, and what will happen is it will end up making your garment bigger, and you can see if I take that pucker out of the top how my gauge swatch got larger on the top. So if your stitches are bigger and you get off gauge, your garment will end up being bigger, which could really mess up your project. Now I want to take a look at a garment that I made. This is the Sabai top, and I want to show you some examples of what happened. This is a summer top I knit last year, and I did some rowing out in this, and it was the first time I really thought that my knitting looked horribly messy. So here's the top. The construction is interesting. You cast on and you knit in the round through the neckline, and then you divide the front and the back and you do the stitches. So if you look up here in the neckline, look at my stitches. I think those rows and columns look pretty good and uniform. Then when you get to here, this is where we divided front and back and started knitting back and forth. You can see here some little irregularities in my V's. Here I see some. Here I see some. Let me try to zoom in and show you. See what it looks like a little closer. So here's where I had some rowing out. There's a little irregularity here and here. So that was my rowing out there. So after you finish the top and the bottom, when you get to, let me zoom out. When you get to the armpits, then you join in the round and you start knitting again. So again, I can see a difference from here to here where I was knitting again. So my stitches were a little bit looser up here on the purl rows, causing some rowing out, and then when I got back into the round, my stitches got a lot more uniform. I didn't really like how it looked and I couldn't decide what I was going to do, but I spent a lot of time on this top. So what I decided to do was just block it and see what happened. And here, that brings us to the first thing that can help fix some of your rowing out, and that is blocking. So after I blocked it, it took a lot of the other, you should have seen it before, it took a lot of the imperfections out and I became happy. So we're looking at it here under a microscope, but as I'm wearing it, I don't really notice the rowing out and it doesn't bother me. So I kept it. If you're liking my videos so far, I would like to ask you to please subscribe to my channel and like this video so it can get out and others can see it. So let's move on how to fix or prevent your rowing out. Number one was simply blocking the item. That helped me with my top greatly. Number two is to just simply work on your tension in your purling. You can slow down, be a little more intentional, tighten them up. You can also play with how you tension your yarn in your hand, wrapping around your hand. I tend to tension my pinky around my pinky finger, under my ring and middle, and then over top of this one. And then as I'm holding my yarn, if I want to tighten my tension, I simply close up my fingers a little bit. And if I want to loosen my tension, I spread my fingers apart a little bit more. So that helps me with just general tension. Number three, you can change the type of needle that you are knitting with. So if you typically use metal needles, you can do your knit stitches with your metal needle, and then try switching to a wood or a bamboo needle for your purl stitches. Bamboo and wood tend to be a little bit more sticky, and that can help you tighten up the tension on those purl rows. You can also do vice versa. If you typically like to knit with wood and bamboo, you can try to do your purl rows with metal and see if that changes the tension enough. The last and final way that I want to let you know how you can fix and prevent your rowing out is to downsize your needle on your purl row. So say you are knitting with a size 6 US needle. When you get to your purl row, you can downsize to a 5. If your purl stitches are really big, you might consider downsizing a little bit more to a size 4. Just be sure you're keeping track of when you're using your larger needle on your knit rows, your smaller needle on your purl rows. You can also change out the tip on your interchangeable needles so that you knit with your size 6 or your larger needle, and you purl with your smaller needle. Just be sure you are keeping track of that so you don't mess up your tension even more. I don't have interchangeables, so what I do is I use two different size cable needles. I'll knit with the larger and I purl with the smaller. And I've done that on a couple projects since my last one last summer, and it really did help. So there you have it. Now you know rowing out is a tension problem, mostly in the purl rows. You know how to look at your knitting to know if the problem is rowing out. And now you have 4 ways to fix or prevent rowing out. So let me know in the comments if you have any other ways that you have learned how to fix this problem, and keep track. I'm going to be making some more tips and tricks videos, and I'll be linking them as I make them, so you can have a little playlist to help you in your future projects. Bye, everybody.